Blanche Monnier was secretly kept locked in a small room by her aristocratic mother and brother for 25 years. Monnier had not seen any sunlight for her entire captivity. Ella Harper, known as the Camel Girl, was born with a very rare orthopedic condition that caused her knees to bend backwards, called congenital genu recurvatum. Stone Mountain in northern Georgia is many things. A beautiful geological formation, the largest memorial to the Confederacy in the United States, a park and tourist attraction, and the site where the second iteration of the Ku Klux Klan held their inaugural meeting in 1915. Martin Luther King Jr. invoked Stone Mountain as a symbol of these white supremacist movements in his famous speech, "I Have a Dream," which features the line, "Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia." Polio, a feared viral disease for centuries, caused devastating outbreaks in the early 1900s. Between 1950 and 1953, over 100,000 U.S. cases claimed 6,600 lives. Treatments were limited until Jonas Salk's 1953 vaccine, widely used by 1955. Before vaccination, paralyzed patients relied on iron lungs, massive machines that kept them breathing when their muscles could not. Prohibition in the United States lasted from 1920 to 1933. The ban led to a huge increase in liquor crime, as criminal gangs ran illegal operations making and supplying beer and liquor. This historical photo shows New York City Deputy Police Commissioner John A. Leach, in uniform, supervising the disposal of alcohol seized during a 1921 raid. This 1921 picture shows a Chicago policewoman checking for a violation of the bathing suit length laws. Back then, your suit could not be more than 6 inches above the knee. Of course, these rules only applied to women. Men were free to wear trunks cut high on the thigh. This state of affairs lasted until 1946, when a French mechanical engineer named Louis Réard invented the bikini, although it didn't catch on until the 1960s. The Hudson Motor Car Company made cars in Detroit, Michigan from 1909 to 1954 when it merged with another company to form the American Motors Corporation. Enjoying these glimpses of history? Hit like and subscribe, and let's jump to the next photo. The USS Alabama joined the United States Navy in 1900 and spent her first few years engaged in peacetime training. In World War I, she took on a role as a training ship, and after the war was used as a target for aerial bomb testing. The goal of the tests was to ascertain the need for naval aviation. USS Alabama was sunk by bombs in September of 1921, as this historical photo shows. Everyone keeps smiling and most ignore what happens after Miss New Zealand passed out during the photo shoot before the Miss Universe and Miss USA pageants in Long Beach, California, US in 1954. At Michigan Carbon Works, this towering pile of bison skulls awaited processing into glue, fertilizer, and charcoal, a haunting symbol of mass slaughter. Once numbering up to 50 million, bison were nearly wiped out by the 1880s. Thanks to 20th century conservation, their population has since rebounded to over 500,000. In this picture, Bristol fighter airplanes dropped smoke bombs and fireworks on the village, which had been built for the occasion out of scrap metal. The crowd of over 80,000 cheered as the fake village, which had been set up as a German military headquarters in a clear callback to the Great War, went up in flames. In 1921, Tulsa's prosperous Greenwood district, known as Black Wall Street, became the site of America's deadliest racial massacre. After false rumors spread about a black teenager assaulting a white woman, mobs of armed white men stormed the thriving black community. Over 18 horrific hours, they burned 35 city blocks, murdered hundreds, and left the once vibrant neighborhood in ruins, iron bedsteads standing amid the ashes of black success. From 1919 to 1921, Ireland waged a fierce guerrilla war for independence against British rule. In May 1921, the IRA torched Dublin's Custom House, a bold act that crippled British administration. The war ended with the Anglo-Irish Treaty, granting partial freedom, but true independence came only in 1949, when Ireland became a republic. In 1921, The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse became the year's top-grossing film, surpassing Chaplin's The Kid. Directed by Rex Ingram and written by trailblazing screenwriter June Mathis, Hollywood's first female MGM executive, it launched Rudolph Valentino to stardom. The silent epic endures as a cinematic classic and one of the earliest anti-war films ever made. Radio broadcasting became popular in the early 1920s after advances in technology made during the First World War. Weekly musical broadcasts started in 1919, and by 1922, there were over 500 stations nationwide with daily broadcasts. Young people were encouraged to build their own crystal radio receivers, complete with headphones, to listen to the new craze. In the Middle Ages, Egyptian mummies became a bizarre European commodity. Traders sold them for medicine, as people mistakenly believed they contained healing bitumen. Ground mummy powder was used to cure ailments from fractures to lung disease. By the 19th century, mummies turned into luxury collectibles, unwrapped at elite parties for spectacle and science. This photo shows Benito Mussolini, otherwise known as Il Duce, attending a fascist meeting in Rome. Later in the year, he was elected to the Italian parliament for the first time, paving the way for his appointment to prime minister the following year, and the eventual establishment of a totalitarian state. The sweet little houses in this historical photo were built in northwest London, England after the First World War. As the population grew, houses were built according to a blueprint to save on costs, building time, and space. Most of the post-World War I residents were Irish immigrants, and the neighborhood retains an Irish legacy today. Death masks, created from casts of the deceased, preserved a person's true likeness rather than an idealized image. Originating from Egyptian funerary masks and later refined in Greece and Rome, they became powerful mementos of the dead. Masks of figures like Napoleon, Lincoln, and Washington even guided sculptors long after their subjects were gone. The haunted gaze of a soldier in the trenches embodies the 1,000-yard stare, a look born from unbearable trauma. Popularized by World War II artist Tom Lee's painting of a distant-eyed Marine, it symbolized battle fatigue. In World War I, the condition was called shell shock, and today it's recognized as post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. In 1921, explorer Vilhjalmur Stephenson sent 4 men, a kitten named Vic, and Inuit guide Ada Blackjack to remote Wrangel Island. Stranded without rescue, 3 men vanished after venturing out for help, and the 4th died of scurvy. Alone for months, Ada taught herself to hunt and survive until rescuers arrived in 1923. This quirky photo captures Norwegian singer Inger Jacobsen and her husband, Danish ventriloquist Jackie Bülow. Jacobsen, who represented Norway in Eurovision 1962, and Bülow thrived during ventriloquism's golden age. In the 1950s and 60s, the act was so popular that hundreds of full-time ventriloquists performed across the UK's booming radio and television scene. With her brother on her back, a war-weary Korean girl tiredly trudges by a stalled M26 tank, Korea, 1951. In the mid-1800s, photographers hand-tinted black and white daguerreotypes and carte de visite portraits. Invented in 1839, daguerreotypes captured images on silver-plated copper, gaining popularity during the Civil War, and giving old photos their softly faded painted look. In 1856, Swedish-born photographer Oscar Ray Lander pioneered headless portraits, using photo montage and combination printing. By layering multiple negatives, he created eerie illusions that made subjects appear perfectly separated from their own heads. 2 wax department store mannequins melt during a heat wave. In London, 1929, allegedly. They also live in your closet and spy on you when you're asleep. Alvin Creepy. Carpus, a 1930s gangster with the Barker Gang, earned his nickname from his unsettling grin. After leaving fingerprints at major kidnappings, he turned to underworld doctor Joseph Doc Moran in 1934, who surgically altered his face and even his fingerprints to hide his criminal identity. This haunting photo of Otylia Januszewska and her deceased son, Alexander, reflects the Victorian tradition of post-mortem photography, an expression of grief and remembrance. Rooted in the ancient concept of memento mori, remember you must die. Such portraits helped mourners preserve emotional bonds with lost loved ones through the emerging art of photography. At just 9 years old, Nanda Gallant worked summers in a Maine seafood cannery alongside her family. Labeled a spoiled child for her irregular shifts, she was one of many child laborers of the era, when nearly 1 in 5 U.S. children aged 10 to 15 worked, despite limited labor protections. This photo shows the very first McDonald's restaurant in Des Plaines, Illinois in 1955. Although the golden arches look a bit different here, they're definitely still there. And I'm honestly obsessed with their tagline, Speedy Service System. These steelworkers at the Rockefeller Center in 1932 decided to have lunch on top of the skyscraper. They're quite literally just hanging out, 800 feet above street level. Here's a truly chilling image from a civil rights protest on March 29, 1968, just a few days before Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. This protest happened on Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee, where many famous protests have happened since then. This action shot is much more than meets the eye. It's from 1966, 3 years after the Beatles' first album came out, and displays fans mobbing John Lennon, who stands on the left. We can see fans trying to grab him and policemen trying to control the fans. Jaws is now a certified classic, and if you weren't there for its release, this photo teaches us just how big the Jaws craze was when it came out. Taken in Ann Arbor, Michigan on July 14, 1975, almost a full month after the movie's release, shows just how popular it was. Victory over Japan Day, or VJ Day, August 15, 1945, was the final ending to World War II. As you can expect, the celebrations were numerous, but I'm sure you've never seen a crowd like this. Here's what Times Square looked like at the time. That's it. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more untold stories from history's past.